Season 54, War number 3, and we're up against X+K9. This time my team will be Silk, Shocker and Mantis. I will be taking Path 1 in Section 1, Path 2 in Section 2, then an Enchantress, Shocker, Photon, Mangog and Onslaught mini-boss, as well as that spiral boss there, using Silk, of course, as I will for the most of these fights. Shocker once again will not see any actual use, he's only on the team as a synergy piece, which is just the way the plan worked out, I guess. Starting off here we have a Nick Fury on the personal space regeneration node, and I will be taking this fight with Silk. Silk is not the greatest option for Nick Fury, he shuts down the auto evade above 5 tactical charges, and then he's also a skill champion, so the slow debuff from Silk's Sig ability will not apply, and with that she also loses her ability to reverse healing. Though on this node you can't reverse the healing anyways, you do still need to deal with the regen using the Despair Mastery, so that he wouldn't, well, heal too much, because the regen here can get out of hand very quickly. Even without being able to deal with the healing as well as normally, Silk still has more than enough damage as well as debuffs to deal with the fight without too much difficulty. The second life is somewhat different when fighting Nick here, because he goes stun immune. You cannot use the heavy charge as you normally do, you're just gonna get clapped if you try to do so, so that is something to keep an eye on. Few more combo hits and down he goes. The Shocker synergy here is also very useful for more debuffs, for Despair shutting down the regen, as well as straight up more damage. Now the physical vulnerabilities themselves, the more you can stack on, the more damage the Ruptures deal, since they are physical based as well. So if you can get the rotation going, especially the Special 3 rotation on Silk, you're gonna see some very big numbers on those DOT debuffs as well. Here we have a Longshot on the Masochism Overtime node, and I'm taking the fight with Silk. He's a tactic defender, so every single time I make contact with him, he inflicts a Wither debuff, meaning that the Masochism node will be active constantly, and with that, Longshot will be unblockable constantly as well. With that said though, he just gets completely destroyed by a single special 2, and there's not much else to it. Just only waiting special 1s and decks in them is all you really need to do there. Longshot never really gets the full ramp up, since hitting him while he's stunned reduces his good karma charges, and that means he can't really get to the Pure of Heart mode when fighting him with Silk. And then we have a Werewolf by Night here on the personal space placebo, I believe, and honestly this node is basically nothing. Silk completely destroys this guy, and well, the only real issue here is the Mystic Dispersion Mastery, and that is completely shut down with the Wither debuffs from Tactic. Silk is immune to the node placebos as well as any Tactic placebos, so keeping the Withers up is not an issue. The Rupture debuffs that Werewolf inflicts even through your block are almost completely shut down by Silk, since she also reduces the duration of any Rupture effects on her by quite a lot. I can't remember the exact number, but they are gonna be very short when suffering from them. And then we have this Domino here on the EMP modifications node, which is honestly the main node you will ever see her on. And when I thought about it for a moment, Silk is actually a great option for this tactic anyways. The tactic makes her immune to the placebos that the node tries to inflict on you, and she will not get any of the dexterity buffs from dexing any attacks, because she doesn't benefit from it. That means Silk will never gain a single buff throughout the fight, which then means that the EMP modifications node will not exist. The critical fail damage here is something you see quite often, since Silk has a lot of abilities that can fail. The Rupture on your mediums, the stun on your heavy, which is why I'm not doing it here, the physical vulnerabilities as well as the burst on your specials, all of that can fail and trigger the crit fail. However, the tactic's ability to reduce the damage in effects can and will shut down the crit fail damage as well, so I didn't even end up taking too much damage in the fight at all, despite all of that. Then we have an Enchantress here on the event flow knockdown right back at it mini boss node, and I will be taking this fight with Silk. Enchantress is not a tactic defender, so I will not be having those wither debuffs on constantly. So the game plan here is to just do the usual against Enchantress and completely ignore her kit. Push her to her special 3 and then bait it with invulnerability boosts if needed. If she doesn't get to throw it, then even better. But doing the fight this way does kinda require the special 3 protection boost. Otherwise, it's somewhat risky, especially considering the aggression prowess node on this one as well. Now, the special 1 is the main threat from Enchantress. It basically triggers all of her spells, and then you gotta do the heavy punishing, intercepting, and all of that garbage that you don't wanna be dealing with. So to completely avoid it with basically any attacker is to just push her to her special 3s only, and you will never have to worry about that, provided the AI is actually playing nice and doesn't throw a random special 1 while you're holding block, which, to be honest, she does quite a lot. This time, however, she was playing nice. I got her down without even needing to bait a single special 3, so the invulnerability boost was kinda wasted, but at the same time, playing it safe is what you gotta do in Alliance War anyways. At this point I'm gonna go ahead and throw a potion in Silk to have her fully topped up for the upcoming fights. The next one being somewhat scary, because a single mistake against a shocker and it's good night. This one's on the Scare Stiff and Bubble Shield miniboss node along with Power Focus 2. And I am taking the fight with Silk, and that was a call out that I had never seen before on Silk anyways, so I felt the need to zoom in on that so none of you would miss it either. It's a pretty funny one in my opinion. Now, Shocker on this fight, he's very annoying due to the Bubble Shield as well as the Power Focus 2 nodes, meaning you gotta be baiting those special 2s constantly. Ideally, the way to do this fight is to just not allow him to throw any specials and rely on the Power Focus 2's reduced combat power rate above 2 bars to basically keep him between 2 and 3 bars throughout the whole fight, never having to worry about a single special. Baiting special 1s is a horrible idea against this guy because it ramps up his charges, and once he's ramped up he's gonna have auto block against specials as well as unblockable mediums, as well as a higher chance to stun you on mediums. So overall, just don't bait the special 1s if you can avoid it, otherwise the fight is gonna get a lot more complicated. This Shocker, however, was very easily dealt with using Silk, which is, to be honest, the theme of this season. Then we have a Photon on the Hazashit Shock and Bleed miniboss node along with Conflictor, and I'm taking the fight with Mantis. Doing the fight with Mantis, or rather taking Photon with Mantis on essentially any node that doesn't increase her defensive ability accuracy, is incredibly easy. All you gotta do is just do normal 5-hit combos, slow down your combos a little bit between each hit to reapply the passive Tranquilize, and that just means Photon will never trigger a single debuff on you, and if she can't do that, she will not enter the pure light form either. So now I'm at full ramp up simply by fading all of her debuffs, got to my special 2, full heavy charge into a special 2, doesn't quite finish her off, but due to switching on the skill power back boosts, I shot up straight to my special 3, and now with this short dance break, down she goes, and I did end up taking a tiny bit of damage from blocking basic attacks, as well as triggering a single bleed debuff from the heavy attack I threw. The heavy charge is basically the spot where you are the most vulnerable there, because the heavy charge will not allow you to keep up the Tranquilize, so the 2 heavy hits, they will have a chance to trigger debuffs on you. Then we have the usual Mangog on the Aspect of Evolution miniboss node, and I will be taking this fight with Silk as usual. Game plan is to do the good old special 3 rotation, which kills basically anything, and this guy is not gonna be an exception to that rule. Now, I honestly don't remember if I threw on an invulnerability boost here. I don't think I did. I didn't see myself do that there on the video, so yeah, that's definitely a mistake on my part. However, Mangog, if you know how he works, he's still not too bad even without the boost. Basically, he can't gain power passively above 2 bars, so as you can see, the power gain is stopped currently. So what you gotta do is just bait a single special 2, use Silk's auto evade to avoid it, and then keep on pushing and hitting the opponent until you get to the 3 bars, and at that point the fight is over. She's fully capable of doing this fight even without the invulnerability boost, as you can see. Wouldn't consider this the safest option though, since if he decided to use the special 2 while I was holding block there at some point, he would have stolen my power, it would have been unblockable, and I did not have my evade ready to go, so the fight would have been a lot scarier after that. Luckily though, he was being nice. And then we have an Onslaught here on the Conflictor and Combat Dash Prowess mini-boss node, and I am taking the fight with Silk. This is another one of those fights that isn't exactly ideal, but considering how much damage Silk does with the special 3 rotation, and how simple Onslaught can be provided you can dex his special properly, this matchup just works well enough to be used in Alliance War. The node does make him a bit scarier with the prowesses, as well as the Conflictor giving him more specials to deal with, but as I always say, Silk has the auto evade active if you ever do mess up a special dex. With that, the tactic does reduce the damage you take from the neuroshocks, if that's something you need to worry about. Generally speaking, some cheap damage is expected against this guy, and all it takes is a single potion afterwards to usually deal with it. But the tactic helping you out with that, it's nice, but even without this tactic, Silk is more than capable of doing this fight, as I have shown in a previous war video. Now I am at my special 3, so the fight is essentially over. If I remember correctly, I am not even gonna do the actual rotation following afterwards. I'm just gonna be hitting him with some normal attacks to get the ruptures on, let them do most of the work, and then just use the power from the Science Power Rack boosts and rely on that if he didn't drop from the actual basic attacks. Damage was more than enough to finish him off there, even without a striker follow-up, and now we are on to the final boss of the war. A Spiral that I am taking with Silk. Spiral is a tactic defender too, so there would be the placebos to worry about and be unstoppable whenever a buff expires, but Silk, being a tactic champion, is immune to placebos, and she doesn't gain the dexterity buff either, so there's simply nothing except a stun immune Spiral with some extra resistances here. Now, Spiral herself is not exactly a difficult defender. Basically the only thing you need to worry about is the dancing blades, which she gets whenever she throws a special attack. While the dancing blades are active, if you throw your second light attack, you will get passively stunned. And basically all you gotta do to avoid that is to not throw the second light attack, so I'm doing medium, light, medium combos to avoid all of that. Without passive stun, or if you can just play around it, Spiral does absolutely nothing. As you can see, this fight is taking a little bit longer due to me not being able to do full combos, but even then, there's absolutely no risk of dying here. Special 1 is easy enough to dex, and again, even if you don't, Silk will auto-evade it. If you ever get hit and you get ruptures on you, Silk will reduce the duration on them, meaning you're at no risk of dying even then. So all that's left is to just hit her until she drops, and that is where the Shocker synergy helps out on this fight. Now, as for the results, we did end up winning the war 4-3. It was an extremely close one, and we did luck out that our opponent happened to die one last time around the very end of the war. And so far, the season record isn't great since we lost one, but still, we are up with 2 wins going forward on this shorter season, hoping to keep it up at the very least.